Hello. So today I wanted to show you, I bought some roses off the internet, which I have never done before. Typically I would buy my roses from a local nursery. Most of them that I have are bare roots, so I bought them in winter, and they're bare roots, so they have no soil or pot. They're not in a container. And I do think that that's probably the best time to plant here in the desert. And I've also bought mine in a container in the spring and planted those here as well. But this is the first time I have A, ordered off of the internet, and B, planted in the fall. So this will be a bit different for me. I do think it will be quite fine to be planting right now. It's still fairly warm, and I think that the rose plant will have enough time to kind of get established before there's a chance of the first frost. The reason I did decide to buy off of the internet is because there is so many more varieties on the internet. Don't get me wrong, there's really good local nurseries with a lot of good variety, but there were some specific roses that I just really wanted to try, and they weren't carried here locally. So also I just wanted to see how it would be like. So I did get them off of Heirloom Roses, and basically they have a ton of roses, so you can spend a lot of time looking at all of the pretty roses that they have, and I did. And then I got 6 new roses, which is a lot. And so basically, you know, I just put them in the cart like a normal online store, checked out, and they gave the option to say what week you wanted the roses shipped. So I picked a week that I thought that it would have cooled down enough here, because I didn't want to plant when it was still too hot out, and also give me enough time in between now and the potential first frost. So when you plant the bare root roses in the winter, those are basically dormant, and these are not. So they were shipped to me last week. They came in a box, and in the box they were kind of wrapped up like lollipops in a plastic container, and they had basically like bamboo shoots to keep the plant from smushing itself in the box. It did work quite well. So I got them last week, and I hadn't had a chance to plant. So it was in its little container, it has its tag, and then here's the bamboo shoot that kind of kept the rose from smushing itself. And when I got it, it was just these main canes. And I've had this again for about a week, and so all of this new foliage is just brand new in the week that it's been sitting on my patio. So I couldn't get to planting it right away. So it's still pretty warm here. I think it's still like in the hundreds. And this is a pretty small container. So I did put it in on the edge of my patio so that it would get a lot of shade. And I did water it every day, just enough to wet it until the water drained out the bottom. And it did keep very nicely. It looks good. I don't think any of them were really damaged except one, which when I bought a bunch in the spring and I had them in the pots and I had to put them in the trunk of my car, I definitely damaged more than one. So I think that that's just expected when you are transporting a plant. So it came very well packaged. I'm happy so far with it. So in this video, I'm going to do a follow-up to Is My Rose Dead video, and you can probably conclude that, yeah, it didn't make it, so I'm going to replant it. So I have a theory as to why it didn't make it, so I will show you that, and I will replant it. So I will show you how I'm going to plant this little container rose. So this is different than planting the bare root rose, and this winter I will buy a bare root rose, and I will show you how to plant the bare root rose. But a container rose is very similar to just any plant that you would buy in a nursery, and dig a hole for it and plant, but I will show you how I do it. So you can see this rose did not make it. It's all brown, it's all dried up. Yeah, it's done. But my suspicion is that when I laid the soaker hose out, for some reason I got really, I guess, cheap with the soaker hose for this little rose, and I only laid this one piece by it instead of making the loop like I did over there. So I am going to take this out. It'll be very easy because it's dead to just pull this out of the ground, and I'm going to pull up this soaker hose, get it out of the way so that I can plant, and I am going to relay this out, and I am going to make the full circle like I should have the first time I laid this out. Okay, so I got the soaker hose out of there, and so this should be fairly simple to remove since it is dead. So I'm going to take a glove and see if I can just pull it out, and there it went. Very easy to take out, much easier than putting one in. So this was a mini rose, and the rose that I bought to replace it was a relatively compact rose. Yes, it's only supposed to be like 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. So it'll be small, kind of like this one was. To plant, again, gloves are always nice to have for planting. And what I like to have is like a little plastic bag. This is, well, it's not a bag. Ooh, it's not actually a bag. This is when you go to the nursery, it's one of those little strips of plastic that you can rip off and take with you to put down in the car. I like to save these. And what I like to do, because I have this rock here, which if you're in Phoenix, you probably have rock like I do. So when I dig the hole for this guy over here, I want to put the dirt on something that's not going to like contaminate the rock. So I like to keep these little bags. That way I can put my dirt onto it. So that I'm going to put about right there. Shovel, obviously. And the last thing that I like to have for planting is this grow mulch. So I like to use this for just mulching over the top of the plant, but I also like to use it for planting. So I'm going to put my gloves on, use this shovel, dig a hole. Don't judge me on my hole digging. I'm not very good, but whatever gets the job done is what's going to work. Also, don't mind this monstrosity off to the side. Yes, it's a work in progress. Alright, so I am just going to kind of see how big this hole is compared to this container. And it's giant, so I think this is a good sized hole, especially since this is a smaller rose. Let me get the camera. So you can see here, the hole is much bigger than this container, and we do want to dig the hole about as big as the root depth of the rose, especially if we don't have good soil. That way we can kind of amend the soil, at least around the roots. That way it's something the rose will like. Another thing you can do when you open the hole is you can take a look at your soil, and you can you'd have to use a bare hand, and you can kind of see what does your native soil feel like. I think I have actually pretty nice soil. So the more you can ribbon it like this, the more clay is in it. A very clayey soil, you'll be able to ribbon it out a lot. A sandier soil, it won't hold even a little bit. So this is probably what's considered like a loam, which is a mix of sand, clay, and silt. Loam is very good for growing in because it has enough clay in it that'll hold some moisture, but it has like enough sand or silt to allow the water to drain. So roses don't like having what they call soggy feet, which is where your roots stay wet. And if you have a lot of clay in your native soil, you're going to have a lesser drained soil. So if that is the case, you probably do want to over excavate your hole just so that you can allow the water. That way you can like amend the soil at the bottom and you can allow some of that water to kind of drain out away from the roots of the rose. But I like to, this is a good time to take a look and see what kind of soil you have here in the hole. And I can just do like a whole separate video just talking about soil types, how to water, and stuff like that, because your soil is going to make a really big difference in how you water and how you can grow things in your soil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the mulch, put it down on the bottom, and then I'll reset this in. And once I get this to about, they have it planted right here. So this more or less even with the ground. So I'll just place it down on there and see how much I need, and then once I have enough on the bottom, I'll tip this over and plant the container into the hole. I'll use the mulch. So I'll use the mulch again, and I'll probably fill like halfway, maybe more, with the mulch around the base. And then I will take the native soil that I dug up, fill the rest over the mulch, and then I can try and make like a little basin with the remaining soil. So I've had this mulch for quite some time. It's sitting outside in the summer, so it's very dry. So I am gonna kind of wet it in the hole. This will kind of compact it as well. And when you do this, if you put water in the hole, you can see how long it takes for the water to drain. So if the water sits for a very long time, you don't have a well-drained soil. If it just seeps through, you have a very well-drained soil. And if it just takes a couple minutes to go down, then you probably have a soil that the rose will like, and you don't really need to amend too heavy. Okay, so I can see the water is already draining, so it's looking pretty good. I think this should be a good spot. Hopefully, once I get the soaker hose looped around and this guy gets established, I'm hoping it'll take here in this spot. I watered this not too long ago. That way it will kind of stick together when I go to tip this. If it's too dry, it's gonna fall apart. This is the smallest little plant. The last roses I planted that I got from the nursery were the really big ones, and I had to have help tipping them over. So this is a cute little plant, very easy to install. Take that out. Okay, so I like to just kind of pat the sides to get it away from the wall of the can. And once you feel it kind of separate, you can take the pot off. And like I said, if this was really dry, this would fall away immediately, but it's nice and moist. You can see the roots in here. So I'm going to set this down in the hole. One thing when you do plant, roses like the sun, and you'll see that there's going to be main canes on the rose. And I like to put the main canes in the direction that's going to get most sun. So I will probably turn it like this. This particular spot will probably get more morning shade. There's a wall right here, so we are getting some afternoon shade. So I'm going to turn it this way. If you don't do this step, it's probably fine. But that's what I'm going to do. Place it in the hole, and then if you just give it a good little massage, not too much, but just a nice little massage. That way we stimulate the roots a little bit. That way they don't stay wadded up in that small little pot shape. There we go. Okay, so again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the mulch, and I'll probably take it like halfway or so. Probably water it in again since this mulch is pretty dry. I'll take a look. If it looks good, I'll backfill with the native soil, and I will make a little mound. And then what I'm going to do is irrigate it with a hose. So even though I have the soaker hose for the first couple of waters, I'm probably going to want to use the regular hose. That way we can compact the soil down around it. Usually I water like the first 5 days with that method. So if I remember, I'll do that, but for sure the first 2 or 3 days we'll want to water like that just to make sure we're getting good compaction with the soil. Okay, so once I have the berm built, I am going to mulch the inside to help retain moisture, and it does act as a like a fertilizer. So I am going to add some mulch into this little bowl. So this is what the final, I guess, product looks like. I think I turned the hose down a little too much because it's just kind of soaking that one spot. So I'll probably turn it back up a hair, and I'll just let it compact for about 20 minutes. And only 5 more left to plant. I will probably not do those on camera, but I can show you where I put them, how they look, and how they do. I'll definitely do a follow-up video. So hopefully this helps you plant your container rose, and if it did, please do subscribe. Thank you. Oh, I hate mulch. Ooh, it's heavy. Ooh.